Hey everyone, this is Mike DeHart, and today I'm just going to be showing you some basics of getting set up for C programming in a Linux environment. Um, this should be the first of many videos we're going to go ahead and post on the Jam site, just as supplement tutorials to the lectures, because I know a lot of information is covered in a very short period of time there. So hopefully these videos we can get in a little more detail as far as the actual code and what's going on, and kind of flesh out any questions you guys have. So first we'll just go ahead and look at a basic Linux environment. In this case, using a VMware, which is available through the Software Center to run a virtual machine of CentOS. I would recommend, if possible, to use a Linux environment when writing and compiling C. It's just a little more built around the C programming language and is a little more conducive to learning. But whatever you're more comfortable with, definitely go with that. If you do have an IDE in Windows you're particularly fond of, feel free. But we'll go ahead and open a text editor here. This is a gedit. This comes with a lot of I believe Fedora or RPM-based distributions, Red Hat, CentOS, Fedora, and maybe even some Debian-based. But usually a simple text editor like this is a great way to start. A lot of times when especially if you're new to coding, it's really a good idea to start with a text editor rather than a full-blown graphical or desktop environment, just because it will force you to write out your own code, write every semicolon, write every parentheses, every bracket, and it just makes your coding end up being a lot less error-prone and a lot quicker as you progress. But that's a challenge if you guys want to do it. If not, feel free to use whatever IDE you're more comfortable with. We'll go ahead and just look at a C program here to show that even just a basic text editor in Linux like this is going to have the syntax highlighting, which is a huge advantage, especially when you're starting out. Because if you do mistype something, miss an include here. It changes the color, so it lets you know kind of before you even compile if maybe something's not right. Once you get used to what color certain things should be, certain like strings, things like that. So any kind of text editor, as long as it has syntax highlighting, you're definitely going to be better off. If you're more familiar with a GUI, gedit's a really good option there. You can save all your files, and I believe there is an option, bottom pane, it's not giving me that. I believe there is an option you can actually get a command line window at the bottom here, so you don't even have to leave gedit in order to compile your programs. It is a very small window though, so sometimes it's still better off just going with the terminal and compiling that way. The two main things you're going to need without a doubt are GCC and the GDB debugger. In order to really check and see if you have those by default, you can just do a which GCC, and if something comes up there, then you know, okay, it's in user bin, I do have GCC installed. And you can do the same thing with GDB. And I actually have no GDB installed on this system, so we're going to go ahead and install that in a second. Let's see here. And then as far as terminal text editors, there's Nano is a very popular one. Nano, it's a little more user-friendly than Vim, but it still has all the same functionality. You can still write out to disk. I'm actually not too familiar with that, but if you do use Nano and you want a little more information, let me know. I can find you some tutorials that we can go kind of through it together. I personally am a big fan of Vim. I've always been using that since I first started learning C, and that's kind of just what I'm more comfortable with. Nice thing about Vim as well, for those of you that don't know, there's actually a vim.rc file here, which you can specify a little more configuration as far as how you want Vim to look. For instance, mine, I have vimrc. It's a little hard to read in this environment, but you can see I have set number, incremental search set, set a ruler, and allow the mouse to set mouse to work on the console, set mouse equal A. Just a few little things like this can really help if you do decide to go that route. So let's go ahead and look into one of the nicest things that I like, and actually I'm going to make this a little more readable. Change profile, recording, boom, there we go. And we can go ahead and look at the man pages. The nice thing, if you're familiar with Linux, you probably are familiar with man or manual pages. For commands, the nice thing about C is also most header files and functions also have man pages that you can look at for a little more information. So you can do a man. We were just looking at standard io.h, and we'll actually start looking at that in the Hello World tutorial that I'll be posting here in a little bit. And you can see you have the POSIX Programmer's Manual, standard.io.h, how to include it in a file, some basic global variables and some macros that are defined within it. And usually at the bottom, in a C also section, you can have there's a list of the vast majority of programs or functions that are going to be included in this header file. So, for instance, this is what we were including to get the printf functionality, and you can see there printf is included in the standard.io.h header file. So what if we want some more information about printf? Well, we can do a man printf, and some information comes up here. Sometimes there are a few different man pages. I think in this case, this is the shell manual page for printf. But a lot of these things still apply. As you know, there's a new line character. All these interpreted sequences and escape characters do translate to C printf functions, which we'll see in the Hello World example as well. So that's kind of a nice thing that Linux does offer that unfortunately you can't get in Windows, or the manual pages for some of these functions. If you don't want to have to Google search, you just need a quick reference as far as what a function does or what arguments it takes. You can always jump into the terminal, open up a man page, and get that information there. So let's go ahead, and since we didn't have GDB installed, we're going to go ahead and install that real quick. And usually this is through CentOS. It's similar on a Fedora or a Red Hat if you're using either of those. You'll do a sudo yum install, and unfortunately you do need sudo privileges. So I don't know if you're using one of the reproduction boxes. You unfortunately probably won't be able to install this, but I believe by default GDB and GCC are on almost all the repro boxes that we have, so not really an issue there. But we'll go ahead, sudo yum install GDB. Password, and there you go. GDB, the base, has no dependencies that I don't already have installed, so we'll go ahead and install that. And it's pretty small. It should only take a couple seconds. Installing, verifying, complete. There we go. And now if we do a GDB, we're actually in GDB here. We don't have any files loaded, so there's not much we can do other than quit. But we'll look at another tutorial about the basics of GDB as well, and we'll kind of debug a very basic program and kind of see how that works. But that's pretty much all for setting up the Linux environment. It's very straightforward. If you have any other questions or anything like that, just let me know, and look forward to more videos like this in the future. Take care.